Sesko. Let's just quickly go Sesko, because I want to ask Roberto about Igor Tudor and Tottenham, and talk about Tottenham a little bit. But just in terms of Sesko, he's got to play him at the weekend, hasn't he? You would think now. I mean, he's definitely grown a little bit like Gyökeres in this last.
Of course, yeah.
Brilliant.
Confidence, yeah. But even early in the season, remember, I think we mentioned where he was missing 1 or 2 chances, but he was getting into the good positions. You're thinking he's doing a lot of the right stuff. Yeah. He got a lot of confidence and belief.
Does he look quicker and more
powerful? Did you see when he set off?
What was that?
Is that always the case when someone's scoring goals? I just look a bit. You just mentioned there, attacking players do look a bit. The weight's been lifted off their shoulders.
I'll tell you what was really good about that United.
Exactly, I was just about to say that, Scholes. Maybe the test will be when you go, no, you're going to be the main man now. Can you take that? He's coming off the bench and getting up to speed with the game.
If it's working as a finisher, though, why not keep him as a finisher?
I tell you, that goal with Cunha's work in that on the end of the pass, but like, you know what was good about it is that what people will underestimate is the balls coming across to Sesko, coming off the. His concentration and finish was so, honestly...
He had a long time to look at it.
A long time to look at it, and this is what I'm saying. People underestimate, right? People underestimate. They think that's easy because it's just him and a goalie. But that finish and the contact, again, remember, Roy, when I say about going to the basics when it's coming, the timing, it was fantastic. And he done the same with that goal where he curled it in the top corner.
The good thing for United with the attacking players there, it's not all on Bruno now. There's a bit more support for Bruno. It's not always on Bruno to find that killer pass. Them lads do look for a striker.
Bruno had one of his most difficult games, I felt, on Monday in some ways. But you're right on Sesko, because everybody in the stadium, as that ball came across to him, knew what he had to do.
What he had to do, yeah.
But he had a long time to look at it, but he just did it.
Executed it, brilliant.
And you wasn't sure he was going to do it.
No.
But when he did it, you thought...
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you again, right, because I always look at the replay and watch his whole demeanour. He's going to score because he didn't look at the goal, he didn't look at anything, because you know when it's coming there, you're going right back in there.
The goals don't move, do they? Ian?
Absolutely. Don't move. Bam, in there. And
so
again,
you don't have to look.
I'm looking forward to seeing them two next season.
Benjamin Sesko is Man United's new super sub. So is it time for him to start? This week, Diogo Dalot sat down with our reporter Dan Kahn to discuss Sesko's goals, as well as the impact of Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo.
With the likes of Brian Mbeumo, Benjamin Sesko, Matheus Cunha, feels like they're all thriving wearing that red shirt. What do you think has set them apart, maybe from other players you've seen at your time at the club?
Obviously, the first thing is always the quality. If they weren't quality players, they wouldn't sign for the club. But then, for you to be at Man United, for you to stay here for a long time, you need something else. And the biggest advantage, obviously, for Brian and Cunha was they already knew the league. They already been playing England for a long time, so you could see straight away playing the game was a little bit easier for them. And then you can see now Ben is a really good mentality person, so he already knows that he needs to work really hard to be at this level. And you can see the differences, and you can feel when a player goes to the bench what type of profile he is. If he comes on 5 minutes, if he comes on 2 minutes, if he comes on 15, how does he react? Even if scoring goals the next game, he goes to the bench again, how do you react? And this is insights of big players, in my opinion. And he's still a young player, so he knows that he needs to work hard. He needs to work really hard. And I'm very happy that it's being like this, because we also need players that have that type of mentality, not just starting games. But I'm pretty sure that he will play plenty of games.
Dan Kahn with Diogo Dalot there. Lads, he really is a super sub. And you look at the goals that he's scoring, there's some seriously important ones. I mean, Sid, for you, is it time for Sesko to start?
Yeah, look, confidence has turned. Since Michael Carrick's gone in there, everyone's got a spring in their step, but the goals that we see there, I mean, like...
There's 6 in his last 7 as well.
Yeah, really, really good. And you can see the turn as well. You can see him when he comes on. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to come on, I'm going to make an impact. I mean, this one here, look, he literally just look at the bottom of the screen, afterburners on. And what I love about this is he's still got a lot of time. So that when that pass comes across, that's going to feel like an eternity to get to him. So he picks his spot. That could easily go 3-4 months ago over the bar or just wide. Now he's picking spots, he's hitting the target. It's really good to see.
I was going to say, as a player, to actually score, I mean, on telly as a fan, you look at it and go, oh, it's just him and the goalkeeper, he hits it. But as you say there, it feels like an eternity. And Does it change your view on his mentality, maybe, that he's picked his spot and he's gone with it?
That's it, the confidence. Confidence in any player is huge. As a striker, more so, because like you don't just go to hit the target, where I think beforehand he was probably happy to, just be on target and make the keeper save it. Yeah. Now he's pinpointing exactly where he wants to go, just inside the post. Like I said that one there that rolls across, you read the headlines before it comes, it's one of them where it takes ages, but there he just knows exactly what he's doing, head over the ball, as basic as it sounds, but top footballers it can get away from you sometimes, whereas now he's in really, really good form.
It's a tough one though, Julian, because he's great coming off the bench and getting those goals. So what do you do?
So I think the Mbomo as number 9 worked well in some games, especially City away, Arsenal away, because of the space you're going to get. And as we saw in the last 2 games, the Everton one and the West Ham one before, Mbomo as a 9 in those kind of games where the opposition leave you the ball and play quite deep, doesn't work out. And actually, the 2 assists that Mbomo gave is once Sesko is on, and that's when United scored the 2 goals. So for me, in a game like that against Crystal Palace this weekend, where you would expect Palace to be a bit like that, play Mbomo on the right, bench Ahmad, it's okay, he can come off the bench, and then start Sesko up front, have Cunha on the left, Bruno as a 10, dictating the play. And then that's probably, for me, the best setup for a game like this.
Yeah, I will say, for me, as a fan watching football, I think the biggest difference that I've seen in Michael Carrick's version of Man United and the standout player has been Sen Lammens. I think he's been fantastic, because I think he's just doing the basics, and it's what almost Man United have been crying out for from one of their goalkeepers. I mean, and when you look at it, £18.2 million for Lammens, do you think he's looking like one of the bargains of the season?
Yeah, and I think we were on the show together here when he just signed, and we had somebody.
Schwarzer.
Yes, exactly.
Talk about his positioning,
And we said he was very promising in Belgium. They've got high hopes for him, really, to at some point replace Courtois for the national team. Even he only had 1 year playing as a pro in the first team at Antwerp, and that was it. But he had great qualities, especially on crosses like that. And on those corners I know we will talk about corners later on, but he was outstanding, really, to make himself like getting those balls and punching those balls out, and he was perfect. And I think he's even getting better, and he would get better as the season goes on, once he understands the scale of the club and everything, and he's in the right mindset. He would get better and better.
As ever with Man United, there's always a lot of talk about the ownership and always a lot of noise around Ineos. But do you have to kind of give them their flowers for their transfer business? Because, I mean, it's looking like really smart business. There were moments where they were talking about Amorim wanted Emi Martinez, and they've gone with someone like Lammens. Are they getting it right now? And those decisions that looked strange are now coming to fruition.
Yeah, I don't know about Sis, but for me, the Lammens one, Cunha and Mbomo, they were always going to improve. They're really good Premier League players. So you paid maybe a little bit over the top, but they were good signings. Sesko is a bit more of a gamble a bit, because he's still very young and comes from the Bundesliga. But Lammens is the really one that they find, I think. And funnily enough, I think he would have gone to Aston Villa if United had bought Emi Martinez. Yeah. Because Villa also identified him as a really good prospect. So for Lammens, well done, really, that's a good one.
I know Carrick's tested a lot of their mentality side of it. He's built this siege mentality to go, everyone outside this football club is here to shoot us down. Like, we know what we've got in this dressing room, who's going to stand up and knows what it takes to wear a Man United jersey, especially at Old Trafford or away from home, and have the bullets come and fire. And they're certainly stepping up for that, especially the new signings as well.
They look like they're fighting. Like even Cunha at the end of that game was really, defending, giving it big to the crowd. So, different United. But that United face Crystal Palace on Sunday, and the dramas around that club continue with Oliver Glasner seeing out his contract ahead of a confirmed departure in the summer. They're definitely looking over their shoulder in the Premier League as well. But despite the unease around Selhurst Park, they've now moved into the last 16 of the Conference League. Looking at Palace, is Europe a little bit of a blessing, or is it a curse? Because they could watch their form in the league slip because they're getting further and further.
They can't go down really from the Premier League. No, they will finish around where they are now. Yeah. I think the big aim has to go and win this Conference League, which I think they can. Yeah. The draw was good for them today, Larnaca in the last 16, but then the half of the draw where they are can mean that I think they can look forward and potentially they are probably the best team in that competition, to be fair, to go all the way. And I know it's difficult with Glasner. I don't like what he says. I don't like his communication lately. I don't like his press conference. If you're not happy, just go. You don't have to wait until May. You can go now on your own. So I think there's tension there for sure, but they still have the best squad in this competition to win it.
Do you think he sees out the season?
I don't think he should, but I think he will. Yeah,
You do. I mean, it's been. Sid, what have you made of the Palace's trajectory since? If you go back to that FA Cup final and the Community Shield and things like that,
everything was great, didn't it?
Yeah.
I know a lot of Palace fans, living not far from the area as well, and they honestly 4 weeks ago they loved him, absolutely loved him, and all of a sudden the relationships really become sort of fracas. I respect what he does because he says he wears his heart on his sleeve and he says, look, I say what I say and that's how I am, that's my makeup. But you just feel as though where they were and where they are now, he's had to deal with a lot as well. But I'm exactly the same as Jules there. The communication's just not been right, and it could be done in a different way. The Palace fans have loved Europe. Got to say that they've loved travelling. They've loved that experience. Team that's not going to get relegated. It's all great for the football club at the minute, but it just feels like where they were to now, it's just sort of dampered down a little bit.
Do you think for them it's keep Glasgow because of those European places and just let the league kind of do what it does?
What, to the end of the season?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of Palace fans going, get him out, we want someone new, come in.
Banners at the home game against Wolves.
Exactly. But realistically, he's doing the job in Europe, and this is a great chance for them.
Yeah, I think he sees it out to the end. And as well, if he goes, you don't want to rush into... Palace are a real established Premier League football club now. They're in a good position. They're in a good place, a healthy place. If they're looking for a new manager, which they obviously are behind the scenes, is that going to be when the season's done? Is that manager at a club already? Then they've had discussions and he's going to come in, and they've got to tread a real fine line, because we've seen with clubs beforehand that make real rash decisions, it can quickly sort of escalate.
Absolutely.
We've asked a few times about Mason Mount and Matthias De Ligt. What is the situation with them? Because Matthias has not played since last time United played Palace, and Mason scored against Palace, so it's kind of a shared history.
Yeah, Mason's getting closer really. He's on the grass. He's getting closer, so he's looking to kind of train and being around it pretty soon. So he's getting close. Just had to be patient really a little bit, and listen, he's a big player for us, Mace. So looking after him, making sure he's ready, and big finish to the season. So good news that he's getting really close. Matthias a little bit. He's had a back issue, which is just been a little bit slower to progress. Really, it's something that we've been kind of working through, and he's getting there. He's in the right direction, but as I said, he's just a little bit further behind. So it's one of those things that's disappointing, but it's unfortunately part of football. So we'll get him back when we can.
Is there even a remote timescale for him? Because obviously, when he was injured the first time, Ruben said, "Oh, well, he'll be back like next week," and clearly we're months down the line now. We've got an international break coming up. What?
No, it's just the nature of the injury and the kind of issue in the back that it's a difficult one to kind of pin down in some ways, and especially time-wise. So he's definitely improving, so that's a good thing, and we're just working towards that. Really, there's not much at this stage that I can give you anymore. Really.
Afternoon, Michael. One player you'll be familiar with is Harry Maguire from your previous stint at the club. Just wonder, when you've returned, what kind of player you now see ahead of you, and of course his contract situation. Do the club plan to maybe sit down with him in the near future, just about what his future could look like?
Harry's he's an impressive character. He's obviously he's had a great career so far. Hopefully there's a lot more to come. I think even what he's been here in the journey and the experiences that he's had, certainly since he's been here and with England as well, I think showed exactly what he is. I think we all know the player that he is and what he's capable of doing. And again, the other night there, I thought he was fantastic. Experience helps in that. His attributes help in that, and his character, and his willingness to put himself out there, and he's really impressive at age, and he's been really important for us.
Saw in a recent interview with your goalkeeper Larmans, he was talking about one of the reasons why he feels there's been an upturn in form is the clarity of the messaging that's coming through to the players. Can you give us an insight into how you go about making sure that you convey to each player what it is you want from them?
Yeah, I mean, you could talk for quite some time on that, you know, in terms of how we want to play, kind of what we want to do for each other and behaviours, and there's all sorts of things that kind of come into it, really. But yeah, I think I've said it at times over the last few weeks. It's when you're putting a team together and you're putting a team on the pitch, I think it's not always. You try to make it as clear as you can. I think clarity is important. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's simple. Sometimes there's quite a lot of detail that kind of needs to be put across, but I always try and feel that we do it in a simplistic form, really, so the players maybe think it's simple, but there's quite a lot of work behind that. So that's always the balance, I think, for any coach and manager, that you're trying to give the players going out there that their minds are as clear as possible, really, and they know the jobs effectively. So it's a constant balance, but the boys have been great, and anything we have tried to kind of help them with, implement them, give them bits of tips. I think they've all been taking it on board ever so well.
Michael, I just wanted to ask about Manuel Ugarte's yet to sort of start a game under yourself, had limited playing time. What do you see his role at the moment? What does he need to do to get back into the side?
Yeah, listen, Manu, I like Manu a lot. He's been terrific around the group, and hugely impressed with his attitude and how he goes about it, and his training qualities, and he's got a lot of really good attributes, Manu. I think that it's when the team's winning, there's obviously a big upside to that. And there's always for the one or two boys that maybe haven't played so much. Obviously, it makes it a little bit tougher to get in the team. But I think that creates that competition as well in a real healthy way, that everyone's pushing each other. And Manu's obviously desperate to get on the pitch more, and he's doing everything he can in training, and he's a big part of the group. So I think it's just a case of the results and the boys playing so well that there's going to be times when we might need to change things and freshen things up, and then certainly he's a big part of that.
Paul? Michael, just another question on Harry. How much input will you have into that decision on whether he stays or goes? And in terms of his experience, I think you're going to lose Casemiro in the summer. That's a big lump of experience gone out of the squad. How important is it to kind of keep that level of experience, that player that Harry's got, that kind of in the future?
Yeah, I think within the squad, I think there's always that balance. You want certainly want that younger potential and that excitement of developing players and helping players. You need that little sweet spot in the middle, I think, where players at the peak. I think you certainly need that within the group, and experience is massive. It's hard to put a price on how kind of valuable that can be, and whether that's individuals, that's experience as a whole group. But Harry's, as I've just said, he's gained an awful lot of experience in different ways through this club. So, Casa leaving is another one experience, and it's something we got to obviously understand and what that means.
Hi, Michael. The Champions League draw took place this morning. I'm sure you've probably got other things to do than pay too much attention to it at the moment, but does it feel strange being at this club all the time you've been here as a player? The Champions League's going on without United. It's happened fairly regularly over the last few years, certainly into the knockout stages. Does it feel different or wrong that this club isn't competing at that end of Europe consistently enough these days?
Certainly where we want to be. Don't think we can assume and just take things for granted just because the past is the past. That takes care of what should happen here and now or next season. I think it's you've got to kind of earn that. You've got to show you're good enough, and I think that's why when you have time of success or you achieve success, it's warranted, and to show how tough it actually is to get it. So to be honest, at the moment it's a really laser focused on kind of what's ahead for us. There's no point in us looking elsewhere. We know where we want to be. We know kind of what we got to do to get there, and the performance level and the games that are coming up where we want to try and get the right results. But I think looking what else is going on in and around Europe at this point is not really going to help us. But it's certainly where we want to be.
Chris and then Andy.
Hi Michael, just on Harry again. He started every game since you came in, of course, as you say, was great at Everton on Monday. You obviously here as a first team coach when he first signed for the club. You've seen him right the way through. Is he as good now as he ever has been? In some ways, better in terms of the experience that he's got now.
There's a case. I think it's. I think as your career goes, and just touching on it there, I think when you're a young player, everything's fresh and everything's new, and you're kind of fearless, and there's not many scars there, so you kind of it's full of excitement. You get to your kind of peak years, which kind of where you're at, and you feel good, and everything's there. But there's obviously you've had a few ups and downs along the way, and then I think you start getting towards the later times, and experience that you've gained then makes you a better player, or should make you a better player from learning from that. And I think we've seen that with Harry's performances of late, really, of what he's brought to the team, and he's been so important as well as many others. But so I think that's why experience is important to use it. I certainly felt it when I was playing that. It was 30, 31, 32. That probably was my best years, really, of just being at that sweet spot of being able to do it physically still, but using the kind of experiences to know what's coming, and probably seeing a bit of everything by that stage. So it's not a surprise.
Andy? Hi, Michael. What's your thought process in choosing the same or very similar team week after week? Is it because you're winning? Is it because there's not as many games as you would hope for it, with the team being in Europe? Does that present difficulties with the players who are not getting in? How are you managing this?
Yeah, it's definitely something we're aware of. I think it's when, we've just had quite a big break and before the last game, and when there's a lot more games, I think, in terms of squad and being rotations, or having to change things for physical reasons or game to game. I think that comes into play. It's obviously the challenge of managing the group. There's huge positives to it, and the results we've had in playing well, winning games mostly. I think that's the huge positive. But there's certainly a big awareness from me and the staff of how important everybody is in the group. And it's something that we do have to manage, So there's a balance to it, but there's definitely a big positive to the fact that we're in a good run of form. And even though sometimes it's the same players on the pitch, I think game to game we've changed things, we've tweaked things. Some of the front players have played in different positions. Luke, for instance, has played in different roles when we've been in possession. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's copy and paste and we go again. But there's certainly a feeling of trying to keep the momentum as best as we can as well.
Hi Michael, can I just ask about Ben? There's been quite a few calls for him to start after his goal scoring record off the bench, but is there an argument for why break up a winning formula when can you leave a player of his ability on the bench and in like a Solskjaer role kind of thing, like a super sub, and what does it say about the character that he is that he can come on and make as much an impact as he has?
I just think the whole thing is a real positive, to be honest. I think it's certainly not a decision that is a one that I look to in a negative way or anything like that. As I said, we're playing well as a team. We've been winning games, and I'm still not getting carried away and thinking that just carries on. But certainly within the group, and the forward players have scored a good number of goals so far. And Ben's been so good, in so many ways for us, and it's really not a drama, believe it or not. For kind of how people see it, it's not a drama, and I think it just shows the qualities Ben's got for what he's produced over the last few weeks. And if and when he starts the next game or the one after, I think it is what it is, But he's doing so many good things as well as the team that it's a good position for us to be in. Catherine.
Hi, Michael. Your front three in the false nine system hasn't paid off against Everton and West Ham in recent weeks. Is that going to prompt a change this week for Sesko to come in, and why is that? Why hasn't it been as successful against teams like West Ham and Everton?
I don't think we've played a false nine, to be honest. I think Brian's played up high on the last line for a lot of the time, so it's just as I've just said there, I think we've played similar players, but we've played in different ways. 4 points from 2 games is not bad away from home, so it's not so bad, and being able to change it from the bench and make things a little bit different towards the end of games is a real strength. So I'm pretty happy with the way things are going.